Hey everybody, this is Andy, aka Love Retro BTW, across Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. I do a podcast every Saturday called Cafe BTW, a morning gaming podcast, a retrospective look at the wonderful world of retro gaming, from interviews to guests. Join us every Saturday, like a Saturday morning cartoon, starting at 8 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern. Also, if you're on Twitter, please join the brand new retro gaming community, a place to share, connect, and show your love for the retro gaming community. All the links are down below. And remember, enjoy the Gamers Week podcast.
Coming up on Gamers Week podcast.
What do you think are some titles that would make better movies than Mario would make?
Well, I think you have to do the gritty reboot of Ice Climbers.
That's a unique one.
Yeah, like a really dark take on Ice Climbers.
Wow.
It'd be like, like a survival kind of movie. These are two people trapped, on the side of a mountain.
Right. R-rated and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully one of them doesn't die and the other is forced to eat that one.
Yeah, that was in the back of my mind, but I don't know if I can go that dark. I saw that weird email from the Intellivision people yesterday.
Weird email?
What are they trying to do?
They sent some email basically saying, we fired everybody, but we're still going to ship a system. But if you want a refund, we'll give you a refund.
Oh.
Okay.
That's the short. And that they're going to try and stay in business, they're going to license Intellivision IP, which, I grew up, Intellivision was my first system. I don't know how much demand there's going to be for Intellivision IP, because I'm probably the target demographic for Intellivision stuff, and I have way too much.
This thing was just a bad idea from the beginning.
Two tigers taking turns tasting tapioca. Blah.
Get that tongue warmed up.
Right? Welcome to Gamers Week podcast. Like the name says, we analyze the best, worst, and weirdest headlines of the past week in the video game industry. This is episode 25. Today is Wednesday, June 8th, 2022. My name is Donnie G. Retro, and I'll be your host this evening. And with me, as always, is one of my co-hosts. She recently petitioned Nintendo to add lawn darts to Switch Sports. Blue, how are you doing tonight?
My shoulder's really sore from throwing so many lawn darts.
Now, the old school, the metal ones, right?
Yeah, the dangerous ones. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's no fun if it's not dangerous.
Right.
So our other co-host, Ryan, a.k.a. Rybread, is not here tonight because he'd rather spend some time playing his new Atari VCS. So we've given him the night off. But in his absence, filling in for Ryan tonight, we're joined by Hugh. He's one half of the Retro Game Club podcast, the family-friendly retro gaming show, and one of the sponsors of Gamers Week. Hugh, how are you doing this evening?
Well, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Excellent.
Of course.
Glad to have you on.
For any of our listeners who maybe haven't checked out your show yet, could you tell us a little bit about what you guys do and maybe where people can connect with you?
We do a show, it's kind of bi-weekly, and it's mostly around technical-ish topics in the retro gaming community. We focus a lot on like homebrew projects or DIY projects, just kind of interesting things you can try out and play with on your own. We occasionally have interviews. We have an interview with the developer Raftronaut, who made a game called Space Raft. If you were at Midwest Gaming Classic, they had a cabinet of it there. And we talked to him a little bit about NES homebrew development. That's going to be out in a couple days. And yeah, I would just, in terms of where we are, we have a link tree, or just search for Retro Game Club podcast. And that should come up on like iTunes and Spotify and all the other things.
Perfect.
So I listened to last week's episode and heard you talking about some of the pieces in your collection. And one of them was the Super Mario RPG t-shirt that you got that you said you wished you never looked up the price on it.
Yeah, that was... I just wore that like casually once a week for several years until it disintegrated.
Oh, no.
How much is it worth?
Oh, I think it was north of 500 when I found one.
Oh.
It was. I stopped working at the video game store in spring of 1996, and it was right around the time, I don't remember if Super Mario RPG launched while I was there, but it was definitely like a pre-order item.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1996, the Super Nintendo was not like the hot system anymore.
Nope.
So we
Right.
didn't really get a lot of pre-orders. So we had a lot of those shirts left over. I mean, they didn't send us a ton. They sent us maybe a dozen. But everybody who worked there left with one. And then we probably gave them away to anybody who just bought the game once it came in. And yeah, I just wore that. I have my I have like a Virtual Fighter for 32X shirt that I just casually wear, and that's like
Nice.
that was like 200 on eBay when I saw it.
Jeez.
I've already worn it too much to sell it. But then I have a few other weird clothing items that were like pre-order giveaways that are too dorky even for me to wear. So they're just in a closet right now.
Such as?
I have like a Donkey Kong Letterman jacket that was...
Oh,
Really?
nice.
It was like a Donkey Kong Country pre-order. It's really awful, and it's like a size too small.
Oh, but I bet it's brilliant, though.
It is, yeah. And then like I have some Sonic 3 sweatshirt that it's kind of like they're hoodie sweatshirts that look nice, and then there are like dad sweatshirts. You know what I mean? The Sonic 3 sweatshirt is totally a dad sweatshirt that happens to say Sonic 3 on the front.
The dad sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's great.
So those, I've attempted to find those on eBay, and they never show up. So I'm assuming I could probably get a pretty good price for them, but I'll probably keep them in my closet until I move again.
Just if you decide to put them up on eBay, drop a link for Donnie.
Yes. So I could take a look at him and see if I might bring him home to my closet.
He can rock that Donkey Kong Letterman's jacket.
Yeah.
I think I could.
It's pretty small. I'm just going to warn you. I mean,
Fat guy in a little coat. You can play that. And now let's take a look at our reviews, reactions, and requests.
All right, first up, Joe Chacon, and I am sorry if I said that wrong. He says, Ken Griffey Jr. baseball is something I play throughout each baseball season. Even after all these years, the game is great and you can't beat the music. Gaming Gain says, The Legend of Zelda is my yearly playthrough. I have bought it on every system it's been released on, plus the handheld. But at the same time, I have never finished the second quest. Hashtag goals. I never have either.
oh,
Neither have I.
And Simon Ashtier says, ever since my heavy tractor truck racked up $900 plus in speeding tickets from listening to Sonic music, hauling freight from Oregon to Nevada, and watching the environment change from trees to desert, I thought, open world Sonic just might work. Thanks, American Truck Simulator.
is $900 a lot in speeding tickets in that area? Like Illinois, that's one ticket.
Is that if you're getting it fixed or if that just paying it outright?
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, speeding tickets are pretty expensive here. That's why I drive like a grandfather.
10 and 2. Okay, and now it's time for the
Important goal.
Freaking heck.
What was
What
that?
was
Not
that?
good?
No, that like startled me. It was very loud.
Then my job is done here.
Yeah, I guess so.
Every Monday on Twitter, we post our VIP, very important poll. If you'd like to participate, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. So let's take a look at the question from last week. And it was, what's the best boarding video game? Coming in at number, actually, I wouldn't even call this number 3 because this is a very low number. Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer, 0.8%. That was not AC Slater. That was Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer.
Yeah, and all the time we've been doing these polls, I've never seen an answer get such a low, like not even 1%, 0.8%.
Well, we were talking about this the other night, and I don't believe, like, that was the first time I had ever heard that Kelly Slater had his own video game. So I don't know how well this game was received back then whenever it first came out, or how well it still holds up today.
I don't know how well it holds up today, but I knew of it back then. Rented it a couple times. It's fine.
Was it decent?
It seemed decent. To me, surfing games are kind of a stretch anyway, but it seemed okay for what it was.
Okay. Coming in number 2, SSX Tricky with 23%. And taking the poll, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, 67.8%. Let's take a look at the other category, which only got 8.4%. At Team Rails says, it's not the best, but I take 1080 snowboarding over any of these. And I actually mentioned that one.
I would agree with that.
I have that game. I think I played it like maybe once or twice whenever it first came out. I think it might be time to pop that one back in and take a stroll down memory hill, if that's correct nomenclature. At Lucky Ryan 93 says, I've been enjoying a lot of Sonic Riders, which counts, right? Maybe Thug 2. I also would have shown Kelly Slater Pro Surfer some love, but you didn't.
No, you didn't. And he needed it today. He needed it.
He definitely needed it. At Saga Ogre says, steep slope sliders. Absolutely love it to this day. Steep slope sliders. That's a tongue twister if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, say that 5 times fast. I'm not going to.
Nope. At Gaz021 says, Snowboard Kids on the N64. I think that one's actually a rare release, if I'm not mistaken. And at 90s Retro Collector says, Monopoly. Sunglasses emoji.
Ha ha ha.
Wah, 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 wah. So, Hugh, since you're the guest this evening, let's go ahead and start with you. What is your favorite boarding video game? The skateboard or what have you?
I'm actually going to go with Skate or Die. That's the one I've played the most.
Ah, yes. That was a great game.
I want to say TNC Surf Designs. You got both skating and surfing, but in reality, it's kind of a shallow game.
Yeah, I probably could have put that one on the answers and it would have done better than Kelly Slater. But I didn't think it was a very good game, so I didn't put it on.
No, it has really good box art. I think I like the box art better than the game.
Right. That's a good call.
Yeah, I was never any good at TNC Surf Designs. I could never figure out the surfing. The skateboarding, I always hit something and fell off the board. So I never made it that far in that game. And even Skate or Die, which is a favorite of mine for the NES, again, I was never good at it. Like I could never, like doing the half pipe and whatnot, I could never really land any good tricks. So moving over or graduating over to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, like that game to me was amazing.
Yeah, I bet, considering.
Blue, what about you? What was your choice?
So I went with the X Games Snowboarder arcade machine. I don't know if you guys have ever played it, but it's one of those where you're standing on an actual snowboard and it's got 2 rails on either side of the snowboard. And you actually control it based on how you move on the board, where you turn it or whether you do tricks or whatever. And the reason I really like it is A, because it's so interactive like that, but also B, it's not really a boarding game. It's more of a racing game. You start at the top of a course and you can pick places like the Sahara or Hawaii or Iceland, and you race down the bottom of the course. And of course, it's crazy. Like in Iceland, you're avoiding snowmen in the middle of the track, or there's barrels, or in Hawaii, you actually race through a volcano and there's like lava all around the side of you. It's completely bonkers. But then you're hitting trick ramps and you're getting all these kind of boosts and trying to be the first one across the finish line. And there's a timer. So every time you hit a checkpoint, you get a time extension. It's really at its heart a racing game. So I really like that about it.
Okay.
But that is my choice for best boarding game. Boarding in quotation marks.
Taking a look at, so I just Googled that particular game, and it's kind of similar to a skateboarding game that came out back in the, I think, late 90s or early 2000s, where you could actually do the same thing. You get on a real life skateboard, and it's got the same setup, rails on either side. You're able to move the skateboard side to side and whatnot and do tricks. But to me, it was very slow. Like it was supposed to be like a race down this track and do tricks and stuff like that, but it just felt slow. And I don't know how fast the X Games Snowboarder arcade game made it feel whenever you were on it.
I think you would like that one a lot better. I think it's a lot smoother, having not played that skateboarding one you're describing, but just what I remember from the X Games Snowboarder is it was pretty fluid.
Okay.
So what was your choice, Donnie?
Well, I said it earlier, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I was never really good at TNC Surf Designs or Skate or Die 2. I did like Skate or Die in 720, though, for the NES. And I believe 720 was actually in the arcades. I played that one for a little bit. But man, whenever Tony Hawk's Pro Skater came out, even though the graphics sucked and it made it kind of difficult to see different things inside the levels, I fell in love with that game. And especially the soundtrack. You play a track, you play a level, and it plays an actual live song and it continues on. And I think each level was only like maybe 2 minutes long. You had 2 minutes to complete all these different things. So that was perfect for some of these songs back then. So you failed the level, you restarted it, it comes up with a brand new song. And I don't remember exactly how many songs each level had or each game had, but Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. It's like I had my own soundtrack while I was playing the game. I didn't have to listen to video game music. I could listen to actual punk rock, what have you, alternative music while I'm playing a game. And that really resonated with me.
Though, in defense of video game music is awesome.
It is. It's just sometimes some games like that, you actually want to hear maybe some rock music.
I will concede the point. Because it fit the game so well, definitely.
Right. Final Fantasy, you probably don't want to hear the latest song.
No, thank you.
I listened to the Final Fantasy soundtrack when I was specifically cut my grass, so.
Oh.
Joking.
Okay, I was like, really?
Like, oh, which one? Which Final Fantasy did you listen to? Depends on which side of the grass I'm cutting.
All right, so I was debating this a second ago. Is Bully a skating game?
Huh.
Because there is a lot. You do get around town by skateboard a lot.
That's a very good point.
I would probably not count that.
I'd say it's more along the lines of your mode of transportation as opposed to being like
it's not the main purpose of the game.
Right.
Is Grand Theft Auto a driving game?
I mean, it can be.
How did I know you were going to say something like that? I would say yes. I consider it a driving game.
Okay. But Bully is not a skateboarding game.
Bully is, to me, it's not a skateboarding game.
Fair enough.
The whole thing, Grand Theft Auto, is about stealing cars and whatnot. So I'm going to go with no. All right, let's move over to our patron shoutouts for this week.
We couldn't do what we do without the help of our gorgeous patrons. Here are the generous folks supporting Gamers Week on Patreon. Games with Coffee, Davey PGH, the Red Ox PDX family, including Shannon and Luke, Zach Huge Thanks, Random Retro Dude, Princess Kitty Mew Mew, Rai Rai's Secret Best Friend, Mega Retro Man, Gamatroid, Emo-esque, Bill Tucker, Rybread's #1 fan, Fruitcake's #1 stan, The Wizard of Zardoz, Clayman 71, Great Saiyan Man 81, BNT Zillaguy, Geek With That, Crunchy Kong, Sheriff Snacks, Frank Grande, Love Retro BTW, Steven Sand, Terry Kinnair, Ducks in Disguise, and Jim and Colleen. If you like what you hear today, and we really hope you do, please consider joining us on Patreon. Your support helps cover the cost of producing the show, as well as other cool stuff we'll be doing, like prizes and giveaways. You'll also gain access to our weekly patron-only bonus cast called Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. Visit patreon.com/gamersweek or follow the link in the show notes to learn more.
All right, thank you, Blue. Let's take a look at the headlines for this week. Our headline segment is proudly sponsored by the Retro Game Club podcast. It's a fantastic, family-friendly retro gaming podcast. In each episode, Rob and Hugh pick 2 games to play and discuss, as well as news, interviews, and other topics. Hugh, would you actually like to tell everybody what's going on with the show this week?
You know, we have a segment on the show called Doom Running on Things, which is about whatever that week people have Doom running on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I just posted something on our notes about someone made a computer BIOS hack that the BIOS doesn't boot to the BIOS menu, it boots to Doom.
What?
Yeah, that's a real thing. It looks pretty great. So we'll be talking about that for sure on the next episode.
So what happens if you have to get into the BIOS? Do you have to beat Doom in order to do that?
No, your computer can do nothing but play Doom.
That would be a horrible prank to play on somebody.
Or an awesome prank.
Yeah, I'll say we're awesome. Yeah.
Also, the Wednesday curse strikes us again this week. Summer Games Fest is tomorrow, which means by the time you listen to this on Friday, it will be in the past. We'll have to wait until next week's show to discuss everything that went down in not E3 week.
All right, first headline tonight is up from Nintendo Life. Sega has considered Dreamcast and Saturn Mini, but is worried about extreme costs. One of the highlights of the week was the announcement of the Mega Drive Mini 2, Sega's next miniature console loaded with 50 games from the Mega Drive and Mega CD libraries. It's launching this October in Japan and will include games like Sonic CD, Slipstream, and Virtua Racing. As exciting as this news is, it hasn't stopped fan requests for miniature versions of Sega's other consoles, like the Saturn and Dreamcast. So why did Sega decide to release a Mega Drive 2 instead of something else? During an interview with Famitsu, Sega's classic hardware producer Yosuke Okunari explained how the pandemic shaped the outcome. It's not like Sega didn't explore the idea. The Mega Drive Mini's internals can't adequately handle Saturn games, and both developing and manufacturing new chipsets during the pandemic is a difficult and expensive process. So even if they'd forged ahead with a Saturn Mini anyway, it might have been extremely expensive, said Okunari. And that's when the Mega Drive Mini 2 came into the picture as an extension of the original one. How very Genesis-like. Making it a lot more manageable during a pandemic. It's worth noting there will still be a much lower production run of this device with the initial focus on stocking in Japan. Okunari is aware of the demand overseas, but remains focused on Japan for now, where the team knows the market. Donnie, we know that you said you would drop your panties last week if they announced a new console. How's that situation?
I did say that. I don't consider this a new console. It's the same console that they've already put out twice, mind you. I know one of those consoles was produced by AT Games or AT Games, but this is now the third iteration of a Sega Genesis / Mega Drive that they've put out.
So the one thing I'd say about this is if you look at the game lineup so far, though, we had mentioned eBay before. Like buying these games individual on eBay is, I don't know, Popful Mail is $500 by itself.
Right.
Yikes.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'd like the Saturn, I kind of struggle with what would you get on the Saturn Mini that wasn't done better on the PlayStation.
Fair. Even if the PlayStation Mini was a disaster and didn't include it, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
I know Panzer Dragoon. Did that ever come out for the PlayStation?
It did not, but that's on all the modern consoles.
Okay.
There was a remake of that.
Right. I guess that poses the question, does the Saturn really have the library, the demand to actually make a Mini? Because like you said, whenever the Saturn came out, the PlayStation was in full swing. So all of the games that you could really play on the Saturn, the PlayStation was already doing. The Dreamcast, in my opinion, would be more likely to fly off the shelves as opposed to the Saturn. And I'm not going to drop launch day prices for a Saturn Mini when the library I don't really think it justifies it.
You'd have to see what's on there first, but probably not.
Right.
But it is interesting, like you said, this is the third Genesis / Mega Drive Mini that they've done. Like the guy says, there's demand in Japan. They know that market there. But it's almost a little bit interesting that Sega would rather just keep doing the same thing than wait until the circumstances are better for them to be able to do a better thing.
Right. That seems to be their modus operandi. They haven't changed since the 90s. It's just like whenever they try to extend the life of the Sega Genesis with the Sega CD and the Sega 32X and everything. And, at the time, whenever they were developing the 32X, the Sega of Japan was already working on the Saturn. So why even put this out? It's like they're still making horrible decisions to this day. It's
almost like the TurboGrafx 16 Mini. Mm-hmm. It has like one half of it is the TG16 and the other half is the PC Engine games. So it gives you both in one. And this is like Sega deciding they wanted to do that, but in two separate minis instead of one.
That's a very good point. I think if they would have done the original Genesis release, the Genesis Mini, make that a Genesis / Mega Drive Mini and put like half the games that were released in North America, half the games that were released in Japan and the EU. And that would probably have gotten more of my money.
Right.
If they were to do the same thing with this, like make the 50 games or even expand it to 100 games, do the same thing. Make the stuff for North America that people weren't able to get. But from what you just read, they're making it specifically for Japan. So they don't really care. Well, I'm not sure if they care about the games that were released only in North America.
They appear not to.
Right. So it seems like it's strictly going to be Japanese released games on the Mega Drive 2.
I guess the takeaway is they don't care if we don't like it because it's not going to be here anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I just want someone to get the rights to like the Digital Interactive Library and just release the mini that's nothing but the FMV games.
Oh, now you're speaking Donnie's language. Yeah.
Yes, he is. My man.
That I would pay money for.
What would be the essential titles that you would put on that?
Well, I mean, obviously, like Night Trap is one everybody would talk about.
Yes.
I probably bought Night Trap on 5 different consoles, and I saw that they're putting it out on PS5 next, and I'm debating whether I'm going to get that
really?
too.
Have we just become best friends?
Yeah, Night Trap's a really, like, I don't get why people bash the game. I actually think it's pretty good. And, the Sherlock Holmes games I think, hold up pretty well. I mean, I realize they're not ones you would play through multiple times because once you've solved the mystery, there's not a lot to it. But a lot of people haven't played all of them, and at least the second part in that series was pretty hard to find, and the third part never got a console release. So there's some work there. I like some of these really campy FMV games, though. Like It Came from the Desert, which I will never argue is an objectively good game, but is just really campy and has this great kind of like late night horror movie feel to it.
Ooh, It Came from the Desert. I don't think I know that one.
Yeah. It was a TurboGrafx release. I think it's one of the few games that did not have a Japan release because it was done by a Western developer. I'm not aware of them ever doing a Japanese version, at least. And yeah, I mean, it's the video quality is awful, and like the play controls aren't especially good. I know not selling it really well,
but it's great though.
Yeah, the atmosphere of the game is really great. It's like watching a bad horror movie. Mm-hmm. So those would be my first few picks.
Yeah, for me, it would be the essentials like, Night Trap, Double Switch, Corpse Killer.
Yeah.
I want to get that Prize Fighter game. Oh, definitely Sewer Shark. Absolutely Sewer Shark. Okay, yeah. But there was a Prize Fighter game that they made for the Sega CD where it's like you're a boxer and you input the controls to this full motion video of people boxing. And I think I played it once or twice back in the 90s and haven't touched it since. But it's one that I think I want to go back and revisit. I'd probably do that one as well.
From comicbook.com, new Nintendo leak teases more movies in development. Got to give me the horrifying one. Okay, a new leak associated with Nintendo revealed that the longtime Japanese video game publisher is looking to make a splash in the film industry. At this point in time, Nintendo is already working on a Mario Brothers movie with Illumination, and it is poised to release in 2023. And as we learned in late 2021, Nintendo has already been pretty forthcoming about its hopes and dreams when it comes to the film space. In comments given to a Q&A with investors, longtime Nintendo guy Shigeru Miyamoto said the company has a desire to make even more movies. Miyamoto made it clear that Nintendo isn't going to focus on these future titles until it can meet expectations for its current projects. But scraping through copyright documents that is associated with the next year's Mario movie, it was seen that two companies known as Nintendo Studios and M Brothers Productions now exist. Both of these organizations clearly flow up to Nintendo proper, and at this point in time, Nintendo itself hasn't revealed that it has formally established either of these production companies. Still, their existence shows that Nintendo is clearly looking to make more movies as time goes on, especially since it wouldn't make sense to create production firms for a single project.
M Brothers Productions, huh? How original.
It's a name.
That's about all you can say about it. So the animated Mario movie that's coming out, it looks terrible to me. I hate the idea of Chris Pratt as Mario, but I'm going to try to reserve some sort of judgment for it till it actually comes out, if I go see it, which I may not. But if Nintendo is looking to really have a presence in the film industry, what do you think are some titles that would make better movies than Mario would make?
Well, I think you have to do the gritty reboot of Ice Climbers.
That's a unique one.
Yeah, like a really dark take on Ice Climbers.
Wow.
It'd be like, like a survival kind of movie. These are two people trapped, on the side of a mountain.
Right. R-rated and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully one of them doesn't die and the other is forced to eat that one.
Yeah, that was in the back of my mind, but I don't know if I can go that dark.
Depends on how much realism we're going for, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I guess on a more serious note, I guess everyone would expect Nintendo to do something with Metroid, whether it be, I feel like that would do better as an animated movie than a live action movie. Mostly because I'm thinking of how bad the Doom live action movie was.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's actually fair. I was thinking that was one that could be live action and be maybe kind of okay, depending on who they got to play Samus. But
it would be very CGI heavy, which I know is something that you don't like.
It's not my favorite, no, but considering, we're dealing with aliens and all that kind of stuff, I will allow it.
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it.
But watch yourself, McCoy. I mean, you take a look at Nintendo's library, their catalog spanning from the Nintendo Entertainment System to today. And there is a trove of games that they could contract somebody to make a script for. And I'm looking at my collection right now. I see titles like Deja Vu or Wrecking Crew or even Ice Hockey. Go in and do something with a title like Deja Vu. And when I think of maybe making a movie like Deja Vu, I think of Memento almost. But I mean, you could do something with a private detective.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't want it, but what I see happening is a Star Fox animated movie along the same lines as this Mario movie where they just stuff it to the brim with every celebrity voice they can think of, whether or not it fits. But that's how Star Fox will go down. I also see them trying to make some sort of like really hip Splatoon movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that has Doom kind of potential about it.
Right, it does. It totally
I could
does.
see a wacky buddy comedy based around Wii Sports.
Okay.
Yeah, two goofball friends trying out different sports. They have to compete in some, to save the community center or win the heart of someone. They have to compete in this sports tournament of different skills.
Like dodgeball.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, dodgeball.
Yeah, similar, but you're doing, they have to play golf and they have to play boxing. I guess you don't play boxing, but they have to do boxing. And what other sports are in there? Tennis. And if you go into like Wii Sports Resort, there's whatever else they have in there, water jousting, whatever they had in there.
Yeah.
I've only really played bowling and tennis. Bowling, I think I'm getting the hang of. Tennis, I got my ass handed to me by Ryan, our other co-host. So I need to get good on that one.
I haven't even put it in the Switch yet.
What?
I know.
You got to get ready for our bowling league.
I know. I have a lot of getting good to do ahead of me.
All right, moving on. From Eurogamer, fans call for Sega to hashtag delay Sonic Frontiers after soulless gameplay unveiled. The hashtag delay Sonic Frontiers has been trending following the game's first gameplay reveal. First unveiled at the end of last year, fans have been desperate to see gameplay of Sonic Frontiers ever since. 2 videos have now been released exclusively to IGN. The first video shows off-traversal and the open world, with Sonic speeding across a verdant island, climbing monoliths, and solving puzzles. The second video is focused on combat as Sonic spin jumps and kicks robotic enemies in flashy animations. But so far, fans are unhappy with the direction of the game, and just as with Sonic's redesign, for the film series, they're calling for a delay. The most common concerns include stiff animations, giggity, a lack of momentum, and a world that doesn't feel like Sonic without hills, loops, and ramps. A number of comments also claim the game looks like an Unreal fan-made tech demo. You can't convince me this isn't a glorified tech demo. It's so soulless, reads a comment on the combat video. Sven Jocelyn, founder of the fan site Sonic Stadium and global publishing director at IGN, believes the game won't be delayed. #delay Sonic Frontiers won't work because for me, the main concern is about its entire concept and gameplay approach. A delay to kill bugs and add content isn't going to address that, he wrote on Twitter. In the thread, he does still admit that it's just not the Sonic game I was hoping for in 2022. We saw this video like last week. We had talked about it, right?
Right. The first one.
Okay. I didn't get to see the combat video. I need to go look that up. But I mean, whenever we talked about it last week, whenever I first saw the video of him traversing the landscapes, I was all in for it. And I do understand that, yeah, you're right. It doesn't have, the grandiose hills and ramps and whatnot that Sonic is known for. But maybe that part of the game just wasn't shown off. Maybe that's a section that they can add, or maybe that is a small change that they can make. But for the most part, I like the fact of what I saw. Sonic is on the rails, grinding all over the place, moving at the speed that he's known for. I don't think that this one is going to pick up as much weight as the one where they called for to get his face redone for the Sonic movie.
That was such a horrible dumpster fire that pretty much everyone looked at it and was like, no, dude, you got to fix that. But I did watch the combat video. It did not really do anything to make me want to play this game.
Really?
He runs around and then he can do spin attacks into the enemies. He can do a dash run in a circle around an enemy, which causes a wind burst or something to attack them. On one of the enemies had a shield around it, so the player did that, the wind burst attack, which made the shield fly off so he could attack the enemy. And there's punches and kicks, and then Sonic he gets hit by an enemy and then he flies backwards and his rings go everywhere, and which is an essential part of Sonic, but I think for me it highlighted even more how weird this game feels, because you still have what looks like they're trying to be a really realistic natural setting, grass and trees and all this kind of stuff. And then here's golden rings flying everywhere. But why? Why are these things in the same world? It's very, very strange.
I don't know if you would have Sonic without his rings or without him losing his rings.
I think you're right, which kind of makes me feel like, what were they trying to accomplish with this game? What is the goal here? Who is this for? It's just such a weird combination of Sonic and, like we said last week, Breath of the Wild.
Right. It sounds like what Sonic or what Sega is trying to do is to capitalize on the popularity of that game, throw out their best mascot and say, hey, I think this might work. It's a bastardization, but it's sometimes things go together like, peanut butter and pickles or what have you. And maybe, just maybe this will be a good thing.
Right, I guess if Sega wanted to do a Breath of the Wild knockoff, and I predicted after playing Breath of the Wild that basically every series would try and do a game like that. Every mascot series, like we'll get a Castlevania game in that style, which maybe will be good.
I actually would like that.
If there's any series I think it could work for, like it could work for Metroid, it could work for Castlevania, I suppose. But Sega pretty much has to put one of their mascots on it, and there's not really a lot, for them to choose from. I mean, I guess like a Shenmue game that was open world could work, except those are like regular humans, not people with like superhuman powers. I haven't played the third game, so maybe they do. I don't know. But it's just, you could do some of it. So if you want the character to be able to like jump around or climb mountains without ever getting tired or whatever, then it's pretty much got to be Sonic. I mean, Alex Kidd is not a character anyone recognizes.
Right.
Or Kid Chameleon.
Or definitely not Kid Chameleon, yeah. So I just don't know what else they have to pull from. Space Harrier guy? Like, they can't make an open world game around that.
Or a James Pond open world.
if Sega was hell bent on making an open world game, which is unlike anything else that they have in their catalog, make a new hero for us then. It wouldn't have the name recognition of Sonic, but it would have the name recognition of Sega, which is still very beloved worldwide.
True. But how likely are you to push units if it's a brand new IP with a character that nobody knows, as opposed to our beloved Sonic, where they're like, hey, you know Sonic, you love how fast he goes. Well, guess what? You now have an open world to do it in. And people are going to be like, okay, maybe I'll check it out.
I think you'd sell probably at least as many with an unknown IP as you would with this weird Sonic mishmash that they've got going on right now.
and hindsight, I think you might be right.
Yeah. This could have worked, but with what they've shown us, and to be fair, this is apparently a very early build, is what the word is online. So maybe it will get better. But I think if I was going to do like a world gameplay debut, I would want it to be better than this.
I think I might be changing my opinion on whether or not I'm all in for the new Sonic Frontiers
No,
game.
you're getting it at launch. That was already decided. Don't let me talk you out of it.
Damn it.
Wait, does Sega still own the IP for Echo the Dolphin?
Ooh.
Let's just put Echo on like a moped scooter driving around the hills.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of like the stamina meter, you have like a dryness meter or something, right? You have to jump in water so he doesn't dry out and die.
The dryness meter.
Yeah, and then like unlike Breath of the Wild, you're happy when it's raining. Yeah, it would work.
Right.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the top 3 new releases for this week.
All right, first up is the Tour de France 2022. Platform is PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Fight for the yellow jersey in the official game of the Tour de France 2022. Experience the new online mode with weekly challenges and leaderboards. In solo mode, you can now deal with incidents such as injuries and illnesses during the 92 stages available. Mario Strikers Battle League out on the Switch. Tackle, pass, and score in this action-packed sport where anything goes. Introducing Strike, a 5-on-5 soccer-like sport with no rules. Do whatever it takes to win. Get gritty and try to score the most goals by tackling enemies, using items, and pulling off score-boosting hyper strikes. Mario meets the Hunger Games, I guess.
Thunderdome.
Yeah. And finally, The Quarry is out on the PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. When the sun goes down on the last night of summer camp, 9 teenage counselors are plunged into an unpredictable night of horror. The only thing worse than the blood-drenched locals and creatures hunting them are the unimaginable choices you must make to help them survive. Why do teenagers still go to summer camp?
Well, if you had teenage kids, you would understand because you want them out of your house.
Right.
So I saw the preview for this game, and it made me remember that I have not played the first game in this series.
Right.
Yeah, what was it called again? I literally just ordered from Amazon.com.
Until Dawn?
Yes, yes, that's it. Thank you. So I just bought that was like $19.99 at Amazon because it's like a PS4 greatest hits. So I like just got that a couple days ago. And I'm waiting for a nice summer night to try that. And then I'll probably try this one next if I like the first one.
Yeah, I always meant to play Until Dawn and never got around to it because I'm really good at that.
It looks exactly like the kind of game I would enjoy. So I will, that'll be a summertime game for sure. What
about you, Donnie? What are you looking at from this list?
Definitely not Tour de France.
I know that's a special niche of a game, isn't it?
Right? Doesn't a particular stage of the Tour de France last for hours?
Or days, yeah.
Or why would I want to sit there and play a cycling game for hours?
Well, and what are the mechanics? Is it like left trigger, right trigger?
Right.
Steer? And okay, I realize this. Some people like this. But when I saw the note here that says, deal with real injuries and illnesses, like, this is why I don't play the newer Madden games. I just like the games where you can play football. You don't have to worry about managing if some guy has a torn ACL or whatever.
Right.
So am I going to come down with a case of horrible diarrhea while I'm cycling through the countryside and
that probably falls under illnesses.
Yeah, but I could see this as being like a Peloton download maybe, but I don't.
Now that would be interesting because I know Nintendo had that with the Super Nintendo back in the 90s where they had it was a game that you could use. They had a specific cycling bike for it.
Yeah, I mean, all the modern exercise bikes have like a screen where you can just like punch in a country name. Like it has a bunch of presets and you're just riding. There's not a game. There's not like a goal, but it's just scenery from, Thailand or wherever it is you feel like riding your bike that day.
Mm-hmm.
Mario Strikers sounds good. It sounds fun. I'm intrigued by the thought of a no rules soccer like sport game. Is Mario going to get down and dirty, like pulling a knife out of his boot and shanking somebody to score a goal? I don't think Nintendo would take it that far, but it'd be cool. It'd be cool if they did, man. I looked at The Quarry. I haven't seen any gameplay of it, but just the sound of it. I am all for horror movies. I am all for horror movies that include camp counselors at a summer camp. So this might be up my alley. I'll just have to look at the gameplay for it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Blue?
Yeah, not going to go for the Tour de France game. The Quarry, like I said earlier, sounds interesting, but I want to play Until Dawn first. Mario Strikers Battle League, I was pretty hyped for it when they announced it earlier this year, I think, because I really liked Super Strikers on the GameCube. That was a really, really fun game. This one, I have not heard great things about the gameplay. Haven't played it myself, of course, but I thought some of the early reviews were like, yeah, it's not great. So I think I'm going to wait a little bit before picking it up and just kind of let opinion settle on whether or not we like it.
All right, let's take a look at our main topic for this evening. From IGN, PlayStation State of Play June 2022. Everything announced, including Final Fantasy XVI and the Resident Evil 4 remake. The latest PlayStation State of Play has arrived, and it did not disappoint. From a new look and release window for Final Fantasy XVI, to the long-awaited reveal of Resident Evil 4 remake, to the first gameplay of Street Fighter VI, to a release date for Stray, there was a wide range of games featured in this show. Final Fantasy XVI's latest trailer has finally arrived, and it was filled with gameplay and some of our favorite summons, icons in Final Fantasy XVI, from Final Fantasy's history, including Phoenix, Titan, Garuda, Ramuh. I know people are going to crucify me over these names.
Yep.
Shiva, Odin, Bahamut, and Ifrit. Final Fantasy XVI's protagonist, Clive Rossfield, also was featured in this Dominance trailer, and it showed how he and his team will take on the many enemies that will undoubtedly get in your way in the game's story. It also revealed that Final Fantasy XVI will be released on PS5 in summer 2023. The game can currently be played from start to finish, and the team is using all this time to polish the game the best they can.
And Resident Evil 4 Remake is going to be out on March 24th, 2023. Capcom is looking to reimagine the storyline of the game while keeping the essence of its direction, modernizing the graphics and updating the controls to a modern standard. I assume this means PlayStation VR 2 owners will be able to look forward to some type of VR content, although no further details are given. And Resident Evil Village will soon allow players to visit its world in a brand new way, as it will be made available for PlayStation VR 2.
Street Fighter VI will brawl its way to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 in 2023. It's also coming to Xbox Series X and S and PC. While that may be a bit of a wait for some, Capcom has provided fans with an extended look at gameplay for the latest entry in the legendary fighting franchise. Street Fighter VI is being built on Capcom's RE engine, the same engine used for Resident Evil 7 and Village, and it will allow for improved graphics alongside a more stylish experience that will be filled with explosive splashes of paint and the striking graffiti treatment. Here's a quick rundown of some other notable announcements from the State of Play. The latest State of Play gave us an extended look at Horizon Call of the Mountains gameplay, which is coming exclusively to PSVR 2. A new gameplay trailer for the Callisto project has not only shown off its horrifying world, but it has also confirmed that the game will be released on December 2nd, 2022. And finally, Stray, the much-anticipated game starring an adorable cat, will be released on July 19th, 2022. Furthermore, it will be free for those who subscribe to the new extra and premium tiers on the new PlayStation Plus.
Yay, I like free stuff.
That is actually really cool because for weeks now we've been debating about how is PlayStation going to make it worth it to us to subscribe to those higher tiers. But if they're going to start dangling free games,
right,
that's pretty cool.
Does that set them up though for headaches if they're making available a day one release? Are their servers are just going to get bombarded with people trying to download and then it's just going to go offline?
Yeah, it's already. Yeah, I don't want to sound like an old geezer, but the whole experience of loading up new games is pretty bad. I mean, I had mentioned I was going to play this, not the Quarry, but the game before it, Until Dawn. Right? Was that it?
Right.
And like I was thinking, I'm going to probably play it like Friday. And I'm like, well, if I want to play Friday, I got to put it in the PlayStation 4 like tonight, and then maybe by Friday, because first the PlayStation will have to update, even though it just updated like yesterday. And then the game will have to install, then the game will have to update, and then the PlayStation will probably have to update again for some reason. And yeah, maybe by Friday I'll be able to play this game.
Right.
So looking at these lists of announcements from the State of Play, what are your guys' thoughts? Donnie, I know you've probably got thoughts on Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, I saw, I mean, with the new gameplay that came out, I hear it's like they're trying to turn it into an open world type thing.
Yeah, the trailer that they showed looked so weird. We talked previously on the show about the logo and how bad it looked. Mm-hmm. And it appeared from the State of Play that no, they're doubling down and they're sticking with that weird logo. The whole tone of it was like trying to be painfully modern. And it says in here, splashes of paint and the striking graffiti treatment. It was just so weird. It very much came across to me like, hello, fellow kids, you know, something like that. It just didn't hardly resemble at all the Street Fighter that we know.
I am going to agree with you on that one. I don't know what they're trying to do here. It sounds like they're trying to make a new take on it. They don't know if people are getting tired of the fighting game genre of Street Fighter.
It's Street Fighter.
I know it's Street Fighter, but take a look at what Mortal Kombat has done. Mortal Kombat has, yes, they've introduced new characters, but now they've started pulling people from different IPs in the entertainment industry, like RoboCop and Terminator and Predator and Jason and Leatherface and Freddy and whatnot. And Street Fighter just has the Street Fighter universe with the characters that they create. Nothing really has changed from what I understand between like Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. So is there going to be something new and dynamic that's coming out in Street Fighter 6 that's really going to change things to make people flock and go get this game? Or are they now relying on changing up what Street Fighter is? I mean, because I'm pretty sure it's still going to have the fighting sequences and the fighting matches and whatnot, and trying to climb that ladder, so to speak. But how are you going to do that with an open world where I'm just spitballing here? It's probably going to be somebody starting off very low, learning how to fight, learning moves and stuff like that, and you have to rank yourself up in street matches and stuff. And yeah, there might be a storyline that takes you all the way to battling some, the big guy at Shadowloo, but I got to see more. It doesn't sound like Street Fighter 6 with the way that they're going is going to be on my list of things to get.
Yeah. Were there any announcements from this that stood out to you, Hugh?
I mean, I'm curious about Final Fantasy 16. That may or may not be the thing that causes me to finally buy a PlayStation 5. I mean, I have this rule that I don't buy game systems until I see them on the shelf. So when I had to Institute recently, and so far I've not actually seen a PlayStation 5 in person anywhere.
Right.
But, Final Fantasy 16 is like the open world part of Final Fantasy 15, then I will get it. If it's like the story part of Final Fantasy 15, then I will probably skip it.
They'd be stupid if they went that route a second time. They know it wasn't well received. They've said in the past that Final Fantasy 16 is supposed to be a return to their roots. And I guess they mean that, they must mean it story-wise, because it's going to be an action RPG. So it's not really a return to their turn-based roots. But I got to admit, the trailer for Final Fantasy 16, like I've been set to hate this game, and I still kind of hate it, but it's hard not to get a little bit hyped when they're going through like the stars of the summons of the series, and you see Shiva doing her diamond dust attack, and you see Ifrit, and you see Odin, and you see all of these. It's like, there's that little like nostalgia monster that lives deep in your chest, starts climbing to the top and going, ooh, can we have that? I was like, no, it's going to be bad, or it might be bad. So I don't know. It did look kind of cool though. The day I've been dreading is apparently now here, because Resident Evil 4 is getting a remake.
And you thought it wasn't going to happen.
No, I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't want it to.
Is that because you hate the game, or because you think it's perfect the way it is?
I think it's
Nailed it.
darn near perfect the way it is. It's okay. It's a little clunky now because of its age. It doesn't flow well to people who are used to playing modern shooters or anything like that. But it was incredible when it came out, and I still think it's pretty darn incredible. I would rather just see them remaster it. But as this says, Capcom is looking to reimagine the storyline? Come on, what are you going to do? They're just going to change what made it great. It says, oh, we'll keep the essence of its direction, but we're going to change the storyline. What does that even mean? I don't like it.
Blue and I have gone back and forth on this one before, Hugh.
Okay.
I exited the series with Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I think I kind of had my fill with the game. I played it. I wasn't really excited about that as I was for Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 1. Then when Resident Evil 4 came out, I tried it, and the controls just threw me off. I was so used to the tank controls that Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 had, that when they switched everything around, I was just like, nope, don't like it. Didn't give the storyline a chance. Just the controls, it's by itself, turned me off so bad that I've never touched that game since. So I can't really sit here and debate with Blue whether or not the story was good or anything like that. It's just the controls turned me off for it.
Okay. I always thought that 4 was like the consensus best in the series.
It depends.
Okay.
Like people who like the classic Resident Evils 1, 2, and 3, like Donnie was saying, they tend not to like 4 because it's an action game. But people who liked action games and struggled with the tank controls and the slow pace of the original ones really loved 4. So it's a divisive title. And I don't even know that I would say the story is good. I would say the experience is good. But I don't trust Capcom to leave the experience intact, I guess, if they're changing. They decided they're just going to change it all.
Can I say that if they decided to release all of the Resident Evil remakes in VR, I would probably pick up a VR system specifically just to play those games.
I bet they will. It's going to have VR for Village and VR for the Resident Evil 4. So I would not be surprised to see them working their way back and continue to squeeze as many dollars as they can out of their existing projects.
I think that would be a great idea. I love horror. I love horror games. There was a game I used to play. I used to stream called Visage or Visage or however you pronounce it. And that game, just like I had to play that game with all the lights on and everything because I mean, I'm a big boy. I typically don't, that kind of stuff like in real life doesn't scare me, but just like kind of living that out by playing it through a video game scared the shit out of me. And I would love, and I hate that feeling, but I also love it. And I would love to experience that in a VR setting.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Another year or two, they'll probably all have VR support for all of them.
I hope. So before we move on, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. Gaming History 101 is proudly sponsored by the Leadus Podcast. It's a show where three friends and occasional guests play games about video games, including trivia, game show games, and more. Here is this week's trivia question. Despite what the box art implies, this SNES title has not one single banjo-playing hillbilly in it. I know the answer. Tune into the Elitist Podcast this Wednesday to hear the answer. You can find the Elitist on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll also have their links in the show notes.
I can picture the box art, but I can't remember the name.
Yeah. If you worked in a game store in the 90s, you would know this one. That's a very easy one.
I saw this constantly at Blockbuster on a Friday and Saturday night. It was one of those games that, it's available to rent. And that game is
redacted.
That's right.
You know, at a game store, you occasionally would get one or two people who just bought like every shooter. Like you just knew that customer who loved shooters and that was all they ever bought. Mm-hmm. So you could sell it to them, but otherwise people had no idea what that game was about.
Honestly, until you explained it just now, I didn't know it was a shooter.
Yeah. I mean, it probably got some people to at least pick up the box and flip it over to look.
Right. Like, what the hell is this? Okay, so unfortunately, no Retro Rewind this week, but we'll be back next week with Gaming History 101 with Professor Rybread. So let's go ahead and wrap up this week's episode of Gamers Week Podcast. Thank you for listening to episode 25, and a big thank you to the Retro Game Club Podcast, the Elitist Podcast, and Love Retro BTW for sponsoring this episode. Don't forget to check out their links in the show notes. Also, thank you to Hugh of the Retro Game Club Podcast for filling in for us tonight. Hugh, did you have fun?
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Excellent.
Will you come back again?
Absolutely.
Sweet.
That's what we like to hear.
If you want to connect with Gamers Week, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC, email us at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com, visit our merch store at gamers-week-podcast.creator-spring.com, or if you want to do it the easy way, follow the link in the show notes. Fanny packs coming soon.
Ooh.
Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/gamersweek. And finally, since you made it all the way to the end of this episode, please leave us a rating and a review to let us know how we did. We really do value your feedback. And while you're there, consider subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice.
So if somebody's going to wear one of the fanny packs, what are like the wardrobe essentials to pair with the fanny pack?
Acid washed jean shorts, high tops, probably a surf style pullover. Do you remember those from back in the 90s?
I do.
In all honesty, fanny packs or hip packs can go with anything. If you want to wear an all velour jumpsuit with a fanny pack, go for it. A sundress with a fanny pack, I think it'll work.
You do you.
I plan on it. Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut, patrons with benefits. This is the unscripted, patron-only bonus cast with less editing and more dirty jokes. We don't know where the conversation will go, but we're sure it will be weird.
This fish just went right on my nipple, and I'm just like,
I Google Street Fighter 6. The first search result that comes up is people think they can see Ryu's in the Street Fighter 6 reveal.
Listen up here, kids. You're not going to want to get one of those VD STDs things, right? Make you fall off. When you go, grab a pro. You'll be doing it for America.
that was perfect.
If you want to hear weekly episodes of our patron-only bonus cast, join us at patreon.com/gamersweek.